let's amend the entire document and submit it that way.
But by me voting yes, if I was to vote yes on this, that would keep those numbers in Chapter 11, correct?
Those numbers right there.
Yes, okay.
Mr. Chair,
That's scary
at
to
the
me.
beginning of this meeting, you made a motion to amend one.
Mm-hmm.
That could be done here, too.
Well, you know, when I talked to Dave prior, you know, it was kind of a, well, this is still in the preliminary stages and going, so I guess I'm not quite sure on what I'm voting on. You know, I guess I'm confused because you're telling me one thing, but I'm voting to change this, and I'm not comfortable changing it yet without changes, you know, but I don't know. I'm confused by this whole motion, so therefore I'm very hesitant, and I'm not,
motion.
you know.
So you may consider postponing it, and certainly what I would request is feedback of what you would like to see, not just you, but all of you.
Absolutely.
Or if the answer is you wouldn't like to see it at all.
Yeah.
Because
No, I'm not against. I will give you my information.
yeah, what we were careful of doing, we didn't want to make it so restrictive that we created an ordinance, but it didn't fit for anybody. That was what we didn't want to create. So, you know, that's why some of the amendments are there. And in terms of the numbers, they were placeholders. We knew that ultimately that the numbers were going to change. We talked about, you know, what we thought, so we put these in. But, you know, if it gets postponed, you know, what I would certainly request is some feedback so we have some direction of how to proceed.
Mr. Chairman?
Councilman Bzura.
Right now, I can say one of the things I like to see is the entire application and scoring system for people that are going to apply. I kind of forwarded a newspaper article about some of the litigation going on in Warren. And Warren, you know, got itself in trouble based on, Dave might know more about the case than me, but some Open Meetings Act violations and the manner in which they awarded licenses and lawsuits, and now they may be forced into either settling or giving more licenses than they want. Part of the process, or part of the problem, was the process they used to score and award licenses. Mr. Greco makes a good point that maybe that's not part of the ordinance, but it doesn't mean that council can't have a very specific set of criteria that's going to be used, that whether we give 5 micro business license or 10 and we get 20 applications, how are we going to, pardon the pun, weed through the 20 to get down to 2 or 5 or 7. So I'd like to see that. I'd like to see if the entire committee believes that this is a revenue issue or not. I'd like to hear that. You're telling me that it's not. Do we think this is going to generate revenue?
If we get revenue out of it, it's a bonus.
Yeah, I'm not asking you the answer now. I'm saying, like, I saw the city of Detroit. The city of Detroit, they're going to do 75 provisioning centers, 75 adult use, 35 consumption lounges. They put a dollar figure to it. I'm not saying they're accurate, but part of their reasoning was service the residents, make it available, bring in some cash. They think it's $7 or $8 million. Is it $1? Is it 100,000? Is it $1 million in Taylor? I don't know.
I can address that specifically. With respect to each license, there's a maximum amount of up to $5,000 per license that the city can charge. So
An application fee.
no, the application fee would be rolled into the ultimate license. So the way it's normally set up would be like a $1,000 application fee. It's almost like, you know, filing for an application review, okay? And if a review takes place and you end up getting granted the license, the city can come up with a resolution up to $5,000 for an annual fee. So if you take the number of licenses, okay, you take $5,000 per license per year is what, up to 5,000. I mean, you could do
Is that the going rate, do you know? Is that what people are getting in other communities?
Everybody's saying 5,000. I did find one community that did less for some reason. You had a lot of people on the board that wanted to really be open about some of the mom and pop shops, but generally speaking, like most municipalities, they're taking what they can get revenue-wise, and it's $5,000 per license. So in this case, and what is the standard around the state, it would be $5,000 for the medical and $5,000 for the recreational. So if you are a retailer or a processor and you have a medical and a recreational, so it'd be times 2, about $10,000, because everyone's going to have both. medical and recreational. So it's about 10,000 per license that you're gonna get. So you can do the easy math per year on that. Then the other thing that it would do is, if you've got some abandoned buildings, some things, some communities, I see there, you're talking about increasing the tax base if it goes from an abandoned building to some changes, so you're getting some tax revenue on that. That's not a figure that I can give you. And then the final thing is that there is a revenue sharing based upon the number of dispensaries, retailers, provisioning centers that you have in your community vis-a-vis the rest of the county and the community. So if you have, and it's gonna be on a pro rata share. However, that money's not coming yet right now because the revenue sharing from the tax revenue generated from the marijuana sales is only gonna come to the communities on a pro rata basis after the marijuana regulatory agency department, the state, takes their $20 million cut first, because they've determined that it's gonna cost us $20 million to get this. But that should be money that should be coming soon, and I'm aware of some lobbying efforts that they're trying to increase the pro rata share, not with just the dispensaries, but also any marijuana facilities. So you've got some communities, I think, up in the thumb, and then out probably 96 that are doing some pretty big grow facilities that, so right now, if you're just a community and you're a farm community and you just have a grow facility, you wouldn't be part of the revenue share from the tax revenue, because it's really only seen as like a retail thing. Because the only thing that's retail here is that micro business and the retailers.
That's where the excise tax is coming from.
Yeah, exactly. So, so those would be the revenue sources, but who knows what they're gonna be, honestly.
And I kind of knew that, out of that allocation, state keeps its 20 million, and then they divvy up the rest, and cities are gonna get 15%, and then it's gonna be pro rata amongst everybody. So if Detroit has 100 and we have 10, we'll get 1/10 of what Detroit gets. I just wasn't sure if the committee put a dollar amount to that. I understand the math, but in Taylor, do we think it's gonna be something or nothing or a lot? And if we can't answer it, we can't answer it. But this concept of polling our friends and taking surveys and have a public hearing like we did back in 18, I think we got a lot of people out there believing that this is a windfall opportunity and it's going to solve the financial crisis in the city of Taylor. I don't see that. I doubt it. I hope I'm wrong. But I'd want people to go into this with open eyes, understanding whether or not this really is, bags of cash piling into City Hall because we introduced this industry to the city of Taylor.
The only thing that you could count on would be that 5,000 per fee license on an annual basis. So if you have a number of licenses, you can say, we're going to generate this every January. That would be it. Everything else would be speculative.
The last thing that in terms of me giving my feedback would be, planning commission. Just, I get that if we were to vote on this today and we said I1, I2, that doesn't mean they could all, create marijuana row on North Line, because maybe we wouldn't approve that, but maybe our ordinance should stipulate that we do or we don't want it, or we want them spread out. I've seen some that distinguish how far apart the businesses have to be from each other. Maybe it's not part of the ordinance, but I'd like to hear what the experts in our city, the people that make such recommendations to me as a council person, what they think about how this industry should be structured throughout the confines of the city of Taylor. I'd like to have their feedback. I get it's my responsibility. I get eventually I got to say yes or no, but why wouldn't I want that information before I vote on this ordinance?
Okay, Councilman Johnson.
So a couple of years ago, we had the mayor of Lansing here. If you remember, they started off with 83, and we questioned him, and it was down to 14 at that time. So the numbers are the numbers. We put the number on it. My question is, if we do, and when we get this done, the tax revenue that comes in, does it have to be spent in a certain way, or can we designate that?
I don't believe so. I think it's just a revenue sharing of the 15% of what it is that comes in. I don't recall seeing anything there, but I can be honest with you, most cities that have already passed it, and I've talked to their council and other people, everyone's looking for the money. You know, and then nobody knows when or if it's gonna come or what it is.
I haven't seen that it's supposed to be targeted, but it's a valid
Yeah,
question.
Yeah, that
but the
they're gonna
answer is
get their
no.
fund and all that, I understand.
Yeah,
that.
I don't-
At some point,
I don't think so.
that fund's gonna be filled and it's gonna be coming out to the communities. And if you were following my post, you'll see the one guy made a comment. Why don't we use that money to buy vacant land that can never be built on, or a portion of that? Just throwing it out there.
Okay, right now I have, is there any other questions?
Well, I just have to say, is there any way that whoever made the motion that we can postpone this? I don't wanna vote no on this, correct? If we vote no on this, it's not gonna pass.
I made the motion and I can withdraw it.
Okay, and it was seconded by Councilman Johnson, okay. So those are withdrawn, so are you making a motion?
I would like to make a
post-
motion to postpone this.
Okay,
Two,
we do have to have a date on the
1
postponement.
month, no, the second meeting next month.
What, January?
One of my other pieces of feedback would be, public input. So I think we should, if we have a Zoom meeting tomorrow, if we have a Zoom meeting, at our next council meeting, I'm not dictating time and I'm not trying to delay. I would vote today if we were gonna do that, but if we're gonna try and have a vote, I'd like to, I had down the application scoring process, planning, revenue projections, and public input would be my fourth. So whatever we do, let's try and do it after we solicit public input.
So
So that would be like when?
maybe second meeting in February? That would be the month of January, the 2 meetings, and then the first month would be the second month. That gives us roughly 6-8 weeks.
I mean, I don't know if the committee has talked about having a public hearing or,
Councilman Johnson?
through the chair,
We have.
Dan, what would you think about we putting it on the website? That's public input, it is not face-to-face, I mean, they're writing it,
Like a survey or something?
like a survey on the.
I still like the Zoom idea. I know the school district does a Zoom and everybody has their own input on there.
We can
we
set
could,
that up.
we
I
could
think
do both.
I was gonna say, I prefer both,
Yeah,
because
but not
some
everybody
people
goes
don't
to
want.
And honestly, if nobody joins the Zoom, then they don't, but I'm liking to, thinking to give them the opportunity to provide input. I'd like to hear it. If they choose not to participate, that's fine. Maybe we'll get some stuff through a written survey, but, give opportunity. I don't know that our meetings are gonna be open anytime soon, so it seems like, planning for a Zoom type meeting, or something online, again, it sounds like the committee's talked about it, so I'll defer to the committee, but public input's important to
What
me.
we could do too is set up the meeting Zoom, and then, if you guys wanted to attend, that's fine. We could call for a special meeting or whatever, but if it is done from Zoom, you could do it from home as well, but I figured I'd at least be here if they wanted to televise it, and then maybe if Cindy or Michelle wanted to join, if people wanted to fire in questions, online that don't have Zoom capability or something. So, but I guess 2 things, I'd need a second on the postponement, and I need a date.
Second.
Okay, so it's seconded by Councilman Arnold. Okay. Is
Mr.
every-
Chairman, I don't know if Mr. Saunders
Mayor
has
Saunders?
any input to
No, I
that.
was just gonna add to, and I could do it after the motion or now, but, just related to the Zoom, but you kind of addressed it already. I don't know that I would do an online survey. What I would encourage is maybe just written comments that can be read into the record. What the Zoom's going to encourage is your extremes on both sides. You're gonna get your extreme pro marijuana,